This is Lantec's Video Interface Edition 17, in which I'll be bringing you industry update and a new Multimedia Futures section with up-to-the-minute news from the APT data group.
We also have a major investigation of Windows 95, which, as I think just about everybody on the planet is aware, launches this month. And we look at a truly startling new British super server. So, stand by the pause button. Here's the stop frame index. To get an accurate fix on the start points, zero your VCR time counter now. Hello again. Well, we seem to be in a period of announcements. In the last edition of Video Interface, we announced the purchase of Rapid Recall. In this edition, Lantec are announcing the merger of our company with Catalink Direct of Norwood, Massachusetts. The two organisations combined create a company with annual revenues exceeding $300 million. Catalink developed and have sole rights to some innovative technology called PCOS, stands for Personal Electronic Catalogue and Ordering Software. The merger means, of course, that Lantec will have exclusive rights to this technology in the UK. Jim Rusu, Lantec's chairman and chief executive, said of the merger, Catalink's PCOS technology provides quantifiable benefits to a corporate customer, and this merger gives Lantec the opportunity to bring these advantages to our existing UK corporate client base. We believe this will place Lantec about 2 years ahead of our competitors' technology, and our intention is to have PCOS available to British corporate clients before the end of the year. PCOS will be used by Lantec to bring new levels of electronic ordering convenience to our customers' PC purchasing processes. Naturally, we'll be showing you PCOS at the time of the release of the UK edition. Right, Windows 95, the long-awaited and much-discussed successor to Windows 3.1, launches this month. We have a major report on the new product, and to host it, a new presenter to Video Interface. Now this is where it gets confusing, because from now on we'll have two Steves in the programme. So please meet our Divisional Director, Technical Services, Steve Smith.
Dave Bridger, welcome back to Video Interface.
Yeah, thank you very much, Steve. It's a pleasure to be back here. I think the last time I was here it was with Windows for Workgroups 3.11, so a lot of water's passed under the bridge since then.
Windows 95, the product of 95. Why would we want to upgrade now?
I think there are a variety of reasons why organisations should want to move to Windows 95. So one of the things that we really focused on from an organisational point of view is the cost of actually owning PCs in organisations. And what we've seen is they really split into three main categories. The first is the cost of technical support. So what we believe Windows 95 will do is reduce technical support costs. The second is we want to improve user control. Control of the PC in an organisation is actually quite difficult under Windows 3.1 and the MS-DOS environment, so we want to improve that. And then the third area that we've focused on is user productivity. So the new interface will, apart from being a lot easier and more fun from a user's point of view, will actually increase user productivity, is a lot of the feedback that we've had and what we've worked on. So all of these areas, I think the bottom line is that our aim is that it will reduce the cost of computing, and the signs look good so far.
Sure. The product is obviously the first version. People are always nervous about the first version. What can you tell us about how Microsoft have counteracted that?
I think primarily it's quite a simple answer actually. Primarily we have had the largest beta testing program and most comprehensive one, I think, in the history of PC and software. There are more copies of Windows 95 out there in beta format than a lot of products ship in their entire lifetime. So we have probably, we think, about 400,000 boxes and over 1 million users of Windows 95 at the moment. Now the important thing is how have we reacted to that information, and all of that has been fed into Microsoft support and development team. And that has allowed us to really provide first time off a product that you can roll out across PCs. Combined with that, we also have been working in a corporate environment called Corporate Environments. We have about 55,000 corporate sites that we have been talking to worldwide. And in fact, we've been in the UK, we've been running a large program for about 1,500 medium to large organisations to not just get the bugs out, but also to find out about a lot of the design features that are required, and also a lot of the tools that are required to allow organisations to roll out, cost effectively. So I think all those things wrapped up mean that, for once you can actually contemplate rolling out Windows 95, the first version of the product, or version 4.0, if you like. In fact, I think that one of the key underlying factors is, which is a lot of the feedback I've heard from corporate IT directors, is, do you feel that this product is more stable than the version of Windows that you're running at the moment? And even in early beta stages, I think the feedback was yes. So.
Okay. Obviously, how would we be best to approach the upgrade?
What we have done is we have really focused on how can we reduce the cost of migration for organisations in making that move. There's a new interface which users will need to become accustomed to. The design of Windows 95 is different from Windows 3.1, clearly for the better. Some things that we need to do, but they are different, and so IT departments will need to get up to speed on those sorts of capabilities. There's the actual implementation itself. So how do I actually get it down onto hundreds or thousands of PCs? Do I have to go around with floppy disks to all those PCs? So those are areas that we really have focused on, and we've created something which is a starting point to help. And primarily it's designed to help with the planning process. So it's called the Migration Planning Kit, and it's available from Microsoft by calling our connection line. So if anybody wants a copy of this, it's actually based on CD. Telephone number is actually 0345 00 2000. I'm just looking down there at my notes.
Okay.
So that number is where you can get hold of the kit. And what it will do is it contains a whole series of tools that we have that will help with the planning process. So maybe if you look at the PC, we can actually take a look at what that means, what some of those tools are.
Yes, please.
Okay, I just brought with me here a couple of those tools. The first is something called on that CD you'll see something called a deployment plan. So let me just double click here. And as you can see, this is an application. I actually already have it set up here. But you can double click on setup, and what it will do is create a project template for you. So this is based on experience with previous customers. I'm actually just going to go straight in there, and I have something already set up called deploy. And what this is based on project. You don't actually need project. It creates a runtime version of project for you. And learning from the experiences of early beta testers and previous versions on what the best way is to migrate and what the processes are. Let me just cancel out those messages. What you can see is I can actually put in a start date for my project and also a preferred finish date. So at the moment we've got today, start today and finish on the say 15th of January or whatever in terms of the deployment process. I'm just going to click on OK there. And what you can see is it takes you through or creates a plan automatically for all of the steps that we think that you need to go through. So if I double click on, say, assemble resources, you'll see it breaks down here. It goes down to 2, 2.1, 2.2. I need to assign a project manager, acquire Windows 95, select the planning and implementation leads, profile inventory, all those sorts of things, down to pretty reasonable level. So it'll allow an organization to actually tailor their deployment process. But one thing that we do know is that there have been estimates about migrating to Windows 95, what's the cost of doing that, and we know that to get to the cheaper end of the scale you need to plan effectively, so proactively plan. One of the things that concerns us is that there is probably going to be a lot of end user demand right at the front, and that those PCs will actually go into organisations, say maybe departments will buy it, or users will become accustomed as a home user, and that will, if you like, create some tension in the organisation if the IT department isn't proactively ready with a plan on what the deployment process is going to be. So that hopefully that's a tool that will help.
Windows 95 is a 32-bit operating system. What about the applications that go along onto that platform?
Okay, well, there'll be lots of great new applications coming along that take advantage of the 32-bit capabilities, including a whole host of games, I understand. We've got a great games API in Windows 95. But on the more serious side, I mean, we will be seeing the new 32-bit versions of Office-type applications, including Office for Windows 95 from Microsoft, which will be shipping at the same time as Windows 95, which not a lot of people know.
No.
But I mean, the capabilities are really quite enhanced from a usability point of view and being much more document-centric. And from the communications point of view, as well as taking advantage of those 32-bit capabilities. So it will be more robust in a Windows environment. It will be faster in 8 to 12 megs and upwards when we're talking about Office, Microsoft Office in particular. So those are the sorts of capabilities that that customers should be looking forward to.
Sure. Do you want to briefly show us what the environment will look like?
Yes, I mean, just because not many people probably have seen Office in detail. One of the key things about Office is on the right-hand side here we have a revised Office, what they call a MOM or Office Manager, but things are much more document focused. So I can load applications here. I can load Microsoft Word here if I want to. So there's Word just by clicking on the button, but also starting a new document as well. So things much more focused on clicking that button and then starting your brand new document or workbook or a binder, which is a new concept of holding different types of documents together and say printing them all off at the same time, presentations and so on, and using the Windows 95 format of the tabbing in this way. So some usability improvements there, and from the communications point of view, we're not logged on at the moment, but there's been a definite heavy look at how organisations or people in organisations working together can do that much more effectively from within the application.
What I think all of the corporates in Britain will be asking is, why should they implement? What are the major benefits of Windows 95 over previous products?
Okay, well, the major benefits, as I say, are reducing cost. In those areas, let's take an example: reducing support costs. One of the things that we feel that we can do is allow the user to help themselves a lot more. So we know that the user interface is easier. Maybe we should just go back to the PC, just take a look. We know that the interface is easier to use. Now, tests have shown that that is going to reduce the number of support costs that come in. So just the fact that I can just literally go up and down and single click and go directly to maybe company specific information. But there's something called help. And the help in Windows 95 has a troubleshooting section which will allow users to try and solve some of the more basic problems themselves, such as I'm having a problem printing. And what it will do is it will take the user through a process of trying to fix the problem with them, rather than give them a reference book and say go and do it yourself. So we think that type of thing will reduce costs. One of the other things that we can do is we have something called the registry in Windows 95, and the registry is effectively a mini database containing all the information about that PC and also user profile information as well. So what I can do is, as an IT manager, I can actually control the setup of PCs throughout the organisation. What I just want to show you is something here called Policy Editor. Oops. Let me just go and use the famous find command in Windows 95. The Policy Editor is the system's policy editor is a tool which IT departments can use to access that registry across all the PCs in an organisation. And what I've got set up on this PC, which actually could be on a server, is a policy for the entire organisation. I could set up maybe a group of users, so maybe the sales department, or I could set the capabilities of specific users, such as Jeff. So if I take a look at Jeff's capabilities, let's see what I can manage as an IT manager. I can go into Control Panel, and I could maybe restrict the ability for Jeff to be able to access any networking components of the Control Panel. So almost like saving him from himself by maybe going in, I don't know, putting in a protocol that's or changing the network card unnecessarily. What I can also do is maybe give him specific wallpaper. So if we have a look here, I think I've given him triangles wallpaper, and then down here under Shell, we can restrict file and printer sharing under the network section, and we can maybe give him a customized folder. So give him a totally customized start menu, totally specific to that user. And under restrictions, maybe hide everything from the desktop, so he has a much more simplistic view of his or her working environment. So that's how I've set Jeff up. Maybe what we should do, if we want to change those, save those changes, is I should log off and log back on, and maybe in a second we can go and have a look at Jeff's environment. Yeah. So that's just to summarise while the system is just restarting. What I'm doing is I'm logging on as a different user, Jeff. And as an IT manager, I could have specified on a NetWare server or on a Windows NT server or locally if I want to, all the capabilities of Jeff as a user. What we can see is, here we can see our new interface for Jeff. And there are some important things about this interface, apart from the fact that we've got triangles or wallpaper, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend. The first thing is things are much more simplistic, so there are no more desktop icons. Also, Jeff has direct access to the two company sources of information that he needs to do his job. And also, if we went into settings, we'd find that he wouldn't be able to, say, tinker with the network settings. So that's really important from an organisational point of view, because it really wraps up what we're trying to do with Windows 95, which is to provide control to the IT department so that they can reduce the support costs that are involved and the costs of configuring and maintaining PCs across an organisation.
Dave Bridger, good luck with the launch, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Hello again. Let's start with Compaq, who are offering a 1 year's free subscription to SmartStart, their CD-based software installation and integration tool. The subscription normally retails at £255, but Compaq are giving it free to any customer who activates their operating system, database or tape software via SmartStart during August. Compaq are also offering a Windows 95 upgrade with most Compaq PCs from the 1st of August until 31st of December. There's a coupon that you must redeem within 60 days of purchase, and you will need to provide proof of purchase and serial number. A charge of £8 will be made for postage and packing. Compaq are planning to offer PCs pre-configured with both Windows 95 and Windows, the idea being that you will make a one-off choice at the time of configuration. Toshiba have reduced the price of their PCM-CIA modem significantly. Their V34 modem now retails at $229. Their V32 BIS modem is now $190, but you should be aware that Toshiba will be phasing out this modem shortly. Digital have recently reduced the price of their new Pentium 120MHz Celebris and Venturis desktop PCs, and also selected High Note and High Note Ultra notebooks. The RRP on monitors, though, has increased. We've featured Hayes from time to time in Industry Update and watched them climbing out of their voluntary Chapter 11 filing. This arrived in June, to be followed only a few days later by news of the acquisition of Hayes by Boca Research. We feel this is good news both for Hayes, us and you. We are delighted to announce that the acquisition is going well and the process should be complete by the next edition of Industry Update. And some advance news from Hayes. From the end of August, Hayes Acura modems come not only with a free CompuServe trial, but with a free internet trial access as well. The Acuras are being redesigned into smaller, neater units, and they will shortly include Class 2 fax features. Class 2 fax modems reduce the processing load on the PC processor when transmitting. Even in its current form, the Acura range has been collecting awards during the summer as well. From PPCP comes a clever new PCMCI card. The PC card camera incorporates a sub-miniature black and white video camera which captures stills and real-time motion video clips instantly via a PCMCIA Type 2 slot. The PC card camera is lightweight, 160 grams, and includes a clip to mount the camera on the side of a notebook PC. A colour version will ship towards the end of the year. Coming in September is PageCard, which acts as a standalone pager or, via its PCMCIA interface, will deliver wireless messages directly to your notebook. Using PageSoft software, any Windows computer with a modem can send a message to the PageCard service provider. The service provider transmits the message wirelessly to the PageCard. You can then read the message from the PageCard's digital display, transfer it to your notebook's mailbox, or save it as a file. Clever stuff. 2 items of news from IBM. Firstly, they have announced a new version of Netfinity, their PC systems and asset management software. Netfinity 3 offers system administrators the capability to predict system failures and potential errors before they occur, all from a remote site. The new IBM release also enables capacity planning for the system administrator. Netfinity 3 reports back information on software usage and can also page the system administrator if any hardware or software stops running or is nearing its capacity. The other IBM announcement of interest concerns OS2 Warp Connect version 3, which provides users with access to as many resources as they need, scaling from peer-to-peer to worldwide enterprise networks. The software allows for sharing of files and printers both locally and remotely, and seamlessly links users to colleagues and the information and resources of their organisation, whether in the office or on the road. Simultaneous access is provided to the industry-leading file, print and information servers, including IBM's OS2 LAN server, Microsoft NT server, Novell Network Servers 2.x to 4.x and the Internet. Novell have some promotions running right now. Firstly, any of you who buy Perfect Office from Lantec will also receive a discount voucher entitling you to 50% off Windows 95. Secondly, Novell have reduced the cost of upgrades for NetWare 4.1 and GroupWise 4.1 by 20% until the 31st of October, or until stocks are exhausted. We also have a number of free 2-user CDs of NetWare 4.1, which we're happy to send you to do your own evaluation. If you wish to take advantage of any of these offers, just call your Lantec account manager as usual. And that's Lantec's Industry Update for August. I'll be back later with a look at global technology in general in our new feature, Multimedia Futures.
Take a team of innovative designers from Britain's leading PC manufacturer, add the expertise of some of Japan's top mainframe designers, ensure they have access to the very latest hardware, firmware and software technology, and tell them to design a super server so powerful, robust and reliable that you can give it a lifetime warranty. And what do you get? This, the Apricot Shogun, a mold-breaking server incorporating some truly new and innovative mainframe technology. Here's Hans Sparks, Apricot's product marketing manager for Shogun. Welcome, Hans.
Hello.
Okay, before we get down to the detail, perhaps you could run through the specification for us.
Okay. Well, Shogun is designed around 4-way symmetric multiprocessing system and supports from 1 to 4 Pentium processors, and they're clocked at 133 megahertz. Each of the processors has a megabyte of second-level cache, and that keeps a lot of data very close to the CPU. The I/O is based around PCI. PCI. There are 2 PCI buses in the system, and that gives us support for 4 PCI slots, 6 EISA slots, and a further 2 PCI SCSI controllers on the motherboard. The main memory will go up to 3/4 of a gigabyte of main memory using 32-bit industry standard SIMs. The disk capacity, well, you can get 20 fixed disks inside this machine, and with this year's capacities, we'll give you 160 gigabytes inside the main system cabinet. There's a full system management software built into the machine, and as you mentioned, the lifetime warranty.
Good. Frankly, SMP systems are not new. What's different about the Shogun in that respect?
Well, ours is different. Ours has an intelligent bus, and this recognises when there's only a single CPU there. The difficulty with normal SMP systems is that you have to arbitrate for all the resources, both memory and for I/O. And if you've only got one CPU there, that means you're wasting clock cycles, which gives you potential degradation in performance, which means you're penalising the entry-level system or the netware systems, which are currently single processor. So our bus is intelligent, it recognises only one CPU, it cuts out arbitration, and it lets the CPU have direct access to memory and to the I/O. So you get best performance with a single CPU. But if you add extra CPUs, then the arbitration cuts in. So all the CPUs then get equal access to the shared resources. So you can have it both ways. Good single processor performance and equally good multiprocessor performance.
Good. In my introduction, I mentioned Japanese mainframe technology. What has been their input in this machine?
Well, quite tremendous. We've been able to design the machine from the ground up with a lot of the principles that would be not out of place in a mainframe or a mini computer. And we've put them into a system which is truly a PC server. So it's got the ease of use, the flexibility, and the price points that you'd expect from a PC server. But it's got a lot of characteristics which you could find in a mainframe. For instance, the power distribution is handled through bus bars in Shogun, rather than standard cable looms. Now we've done this because cable looms can actually give you voltage drops from one end of the machine to the other. That's not so critical with a small system. But when you get to a machine of this size, voltage drops are actually quite bad news for some key components. Things like disks. The drives we have in here are 1 million hours mean time between failure. That's over 100 years. But you only get that reliability if you can keep the power strictly controlled. As soon as it deviates, then the reliability drops off. And unfortunately, Sod's law cuts in, and it's an exponential drop. So you very rapidly come down from 100 years to perhaps 2 or 3 years. And that's a bit too close for comfort, certainly for a mission-critical machine. So we've gone for bus bars. Bus bars mean no voltage drops and no loss of reliability. And there are many other aspects of Mitsubishi's involvement which only really become apparent when you start to look inside the machine, such as the way the side panels are put on and how the electrical and RFI connections are made.
Tell me about security. That is, the security of the data that Shogun will store, and indeed of the components themselves. I mean, 3/4 of a gigabyte of RAM is quite a proposition.
Certainly is. Well, security, as I say, covers 2 elements. That's the physical security of the components inside the machine, as well as the data security. On the physical security side, there are 3 levels of security. Firstly, we have an infrared detector on the front, which is controlled through an infrared card. The second level of security has to do with the keys. There are locks on both the front exchangeable and also on the side panels. And these keys are different, so a different individual can have access to the exchangeable data in the front, as opposed to getting into the side of the machine. Good. And the third level of security, even if you get through all of those, all the panels are alarmed. So this means even if you've got a key and the lock card, you've still got to pre-warn the system management you're going to take the side panels off. Otherwise a building alarm is going to fire up. So I think we've got that one quite secure. In terms of the data security, well, like most other systems on the market, we have a RAID solution, RAID levels 0, 1 and 5. But RAID on its own doesn't actually give you total data security. It doesn't give you that 100% data integrity that customers really want. So what we've done is something that's quite innovative. And I've brought an example with me today.
Good, let's see it.
This is an example of the drive cage from inside the machine, and it holds 4 drives in the cage. The drives are actually locked in. Now, most other RAID systems, you can get hold of the drive and you can just pull it straight out. And that can actually cause problems, because by pulling the drive out, you're disconnecting power and signal simultaneously. And that can cause a spike on the backplane, on the SCSI line. And the system may or may not recover from that. And that's actually quite disastrous because it could mean a corrupt database. So in our system, in Shogun, you can't just pull the drive out. They're locked in. To undo a drive, you've got to turn this handle on the front twice. You're turning it once, and that's disconnecting the power. It's tripped a microswitch at the back. And the second turn is then taking the signal connection out. And then you've got a very clean removal of the drive.
Easy.
Yeah. Now, whilst we're looking at the drive cage, the other aspect of how the drives are held in is also quite innovative. With most other systems, these drives are held into a fixed backplane. Now, a fixed backplane can cause problems. These drives here are spinning quite fast, typically 7,200 RPM. As they start and stop, they're causing a twisting effect, which gets transmitted through to the connector that it's fitting into. And that's going to give you a stress problem. So you've got a drive which has got a reliability of 100 years, and it's fitting into a connector which is going to fail long before that. There's actually a problem waiting to happen. You just don't know when. So what we've done is we've taken the backplane. I'll just turn this around so you can see it. And we've divided it up into segments. So each drive fits into its own segment of the backplane. And these segments can move. They've got some freedom of movement there. That takes up the stress from the torsion effect on the drive, and it stops the connector being a failing component. So there's just enough play there to take that stress away. So no stress, no unreliability. And to connect all these together, we've used a woven SCSI cable. Now, a woven cable is very flexible, but it's also high quality and low loss.
It's clearly a powerful beast we have here, Hans. How are we going to control it?
As you say, controlling it, certainly for a system of this class, requires high quality, high caliber system management software. The system management is actually held within the machine. It's got its own dedicated processor card. It's got its own processor, its own memory, and it takes residual power from the UPS. So that means you can get in and interrogate Shogun even if the mains is out on the site and even if all the CPUs are out of action. The system management facility is run from a standard PC. It's not a dedicated PC. You can run any other application that you need. When you want to, you connect into the machine, either through a dial-up line or through a local area network. You get password authorization, and the machine has got a dial-back facility to make sure that only authorized users get access to the machine. The presentation of the system management facility on the screen is a true Windows application. It's got two modes of driving it, either graphically or through a file structure approach. File structure approach is quite widely used. It's used in Microsoft's SMS facility, for example. It means that the two products can coexist side by side, and the user can move between one and the other without any problems. Our product looks inside the server and shows what's going on there, whereas other network products will look outside into the whole network. The information you get back will give you predictive failure information. So it's keeping a track of any recovered errors and giving advanced warning of a potential degradation of a key component. Now that's quite important because you're now no longer waiting for a fix-on-fail situation. You can actually say, well, this component looks as though it might fail somewhere in the future. So let's fix it now when it's convenient for the business rather than waiting for the problem to occur. So we've got preventative maintenance, and also it's deferred maintenance because you're doing it when it's convenient to the business and not when the machine says, please fix me.
Hans, what's the reaction been to Shogun so far?
It's been tremendous. We launched at Networks 95, and we even had people on the stand trying to order the system. The response has been so good that we're putting together a roadshow to be run across the country in the third week in September, and this will take Shogun out to the general public.
Hans Sparks, thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you'd like more information on the Shogun roadshows or just the Shogun itself, use the reply card in the video box. Just write your name, company name and Shogun in the product section, and we'll make sure you get all the details.
Multimedia Futures is a new service run by APT Data Group plc. We're delighted to say we have permission to use their news feeds and sources for a new section of Lantec's video interface. This will widen the scope of our news coverage to include leading-edge matters from every branch of computing and indeed allied technologies. Of course, as we shall be speaking about technologies other than just PC-based computing, we have to say that products and services featured in Multimedia Futures are not necessarily available from or endorsed by Lantec. Here's Alison with the first edition.
The HD-CD battle continues. Further deepening the rift in the high-capacity digital video disc world, Sega Enterprises have shunned the Philips Sony high-density CD format. That's the one favoured by all the manufacturers with computer-related interests. Instead, they are backing the double-sided Toshiba, Time Warner, Matsuhita sponsored format, which has the approval of most of the entertainment industry. It is not, however, upwards compatible with today's PC CD-ROMs. GTE Main Street, the interactive television network being tested by GTE Corporation, is to open a virtual TV studio at MGM Plaza in Santa Monica, reports Variety Daily. The studio, scheduled to be operational in mid-August, will use Silicon Graphics workstations to create virtual environments for several of GTE's interactive shows. Robert J. Reagan, GTE Main Street's Senior Vice President of Programming, claimed it to be the first studio of its kind. At the virtual studio, actors and other elements will be placed against a blue screen. Studio cameras share camera movement data with the computer software. The blue environment is then electronically replaced with visuals produced by the computer. The result is a 3D environment in which on-air personalities can move around the elements of the virtual set. In a similar move, Pacific Ocean Post has announced plans to build a virtual production unit to go under the title Virtual Visualize. It is expected to open, also in Santa Monica, in September, and it too will include a blue screen stage and computer-generated sets. Closer to home, British Telecom intend to start the largest interactive television trial in the world this autumn. It involves 2,500 customers in the Suffolk cities of Colchester and Ipswich. Services are initially offered with free 6-month installation, a monthly charge of £4.99 and variable rates for services, ranging from 25p for children's TV to £3.99 for movies. Intuit Incorporated announced that it is working with 19 leading US banks and financial institutions to deliver online financial services via its Quicken software product. The initiative, which effectively gets underway the plans that Microsoft had for Intuit's software when it tried to buy the company, offers a set of services that will enable individuals and small businesses to bank, pay bills and perform other financial tasks online via Quicken, starting in the autumn. Staying with the online theme, how do you fancy a new career? Bulletin board moderators or forum leaders are skilled enough at managing an online discussion that they can keep scores of people happily online for hours. According to the New York Times, they can expect to be able to name their own salaries within a year or two. To become one, all you need is a personal computer, a subscription to an online service, and lots of bright ideas on a subject area of broad interest. Forum leaders are eventually hired by the major online services as independent contractors and are typically paid about 10% of the fees collected by the online service for time spent by members in their forum. A handful of the most popular fora are multi-million-dollar businesses already. And finally, IBM Corporation and Teleport Corporation reckon that executives are so hungry for power breakfasts and lunches and dinners that if they can't have one face-to-face, they'll settle for face-to-screen instead. According to the Wall Street Journal, the two plan to build 600 virtual dining rooms in the US. Virtual diners would be seated at large semicircular tables, with the other half of the circle replaced by a giant video screen on which the dinner partners would appear. Tables will rent for $70 to $150 an hour, with meals and tips on top. You may look across the screen and say, "Gee, my prime rib doesn't look as good as yours," suggested a teleporter in Englewood, Ohio. No doubt people will also accidentally order from the wrong virtual waitress, only to see their order placed on the table on the other side of the screen. And that's Multimedia Futures for August 1995.
Multimedia Futures is available via the internet. Email info@apt.globalnews.com. Please mention video interface in your inquiry.
Two editions of this programme ago, we brought along Guy Kewney to give you the benefit of his insights into the computer industry. You liked him, so he's back. Guy, you have fans.
Both of them. I am pleased.
Guy, let's talk about a few things here. First of all, you've got some news about the P6, I understand, so tell us about that first, would you?
Well, the P6 is Intel's future chip. It's very nearly finished. It's the one that comes after the Pentium. As of yet, I don't know anybody who knows what it's going to be called. Obviously not the P6, because that's not trademarkable. But the P6 is supposed to be very, very much faster than the Pentium. And Intel has been doing some tests on its first silicon, and it has come out with the results of these tests, which show that it's actually, if you're running 16-bit software, slower than a Pentium. And it's not just slower if you clock it at the same speed. The good news about the P6 is that you can clock it very much faster than a Pentium. So the Pentiums stop at 130 at the moment. Well, that's where the P6 will start. So they're going to be very fast P6s, but you will have to clock them very much faster than anybody believed. And it only becomes useful if you're running software that was written for something like the P6. Now, there's astonishingly little of that about. There's several levels to this. When Intel tried to design the P6, they started about 5 years ago, and they assumed, I think it was a sensible prediction, that by 1996 there would be a lot of 32-bit software around. If you remember, at that time Windows NT was being readied, OS2 was being tarted up. It was fairly clear that both were going to be launched. It was assumed that it would be the thing. Everybody would go ahead and run it. Well, OS2 has largely been successful as a way of running Windows. Most people who buy OS2 run Windows applications and DOS, neither of which crawls with 32-bit code, quite the opposite.
Sure.
Windows NT has been successful. We can talk about that in a bit if you like. Remind me. Windows NT has been very successful, but it hasn't led to a very great deal of desktop applications. In other words, I can buy Windows NT and I can run it for a lot of purposes, and people are, but I'm unlikely to do that to run Excel, Word, and all the other things that we put on our desktop machines. For that, I used Windows 3.1, and as the next couple of months go by, we will start moving to Windows 95. And there we have a problem. Windows 95 was announced as a 32-bit preemptive multitasking operating system. Well, almost. Most of it is more 32-bit than it used to be. Quite a lot of it is 5-year-old code. Quite a lot of it is Windows 386 code. If you go and look at the little signs on it, you'll find it's really not all that new.
Really?
It's been completely rewritten. Microsoft is right about that, just not recently. Right? It's quite old code, a lot of it, and it's 16-bit code. Now, 16-bit code is a code phrase, and so is 32-bit code is a code phrase. Maybe I mean it's a nickname. When Intel refers to 16-bit code, it tends to mean hand-assembled code. Now, the assumption made when they designed the Pentium was that people would have advanced compilers which would make code that ran in a way that the P5 and the P6 would be able to optimize. Now, you don't have to know too much about how these chips work to understand that in outline what they try and do is feed 5 or 6 instructions in parallel, execute them all at once, and have the results of each fed into other parts of it. Now, there's a limit to how often you can do that. With the P6, if you have a compiler that knows what sort of instructions will fit neatly through the pipeline, you can go very much faster than you can. The trouble is there are no such compilers. With the P6, if you're running 32-bit code, which means a nice long flat address space with 32-bit address, it will also run faster than it will for 16. But unfortunately, that's not the software people have on their desks. So when Intel's figures came out, I was amazed to find that if you run Windows 3 and Windows 95 code on a P6, at a high clock rate, it runs slower than it does on the Pentium. Now, this is not much of a tragedy for Intel at this stage, because they were never expecting to sell a lot of P6s next year. They started to ship towards the end of this year. There'll be P6 machines at Comdex. Yeah. But it is a bit of a blow in the sense that they like to have something that looks big and fast so that people will move towards it. And it looks as if that won't happen for a good year, because there is no 16-bit code that will really take advantage of it.
Right. Is there anything that Intel can do to redesign the P6 chip to get around this problem, or are we just going to have to wait for faster clock rates on the chip?
We'll have to wait for new software. We'll have to wait for faster clock rates. And I suspect Intel will probably come under a lot of pressure from its customers, the PC makers. Yes, they'll be asked to make a faster one. Because the P6 is very good at multiprocessing. You can put 2 processors in and it doubles the speed. But you do need an operating system that does that. And most people aren't running multiprocessing operating systems. So they may have to.
Okay. Memory shortages, Guy, are these going to get worse? And what
Temporarily, yes. Yes. At the risk of using the W word more often than the viewers would perhaps be happier with, Windows 95 requires more memory than we all thought. It requires more memory, not just because it requires memory to run well, but because if you want to make money selling a PC, you don't want to upgrade it. People who order upgrades cost you your profit margin. Even a little company like Gateway, which has been around in this company a relatively short time, or they have something like a dozen different types of memory. You ring up and say, I need another 4 meg of RAM. They better get it right first time, or bang, the phone call swallowed up the profit on that memory. So people will want to buy 16 straight away. It's not there. Prices will stay high. I think it's not just the computer industry, and it's also the way the industry has switched from the 4 meg to the 16 meg SIMs. In the previous upgrades, people went from one type of SIM to another one that didn't fit in the same board. Suddenly, you can use the 16 meg SIMs in the same boards as the old 4s. So everybody's switching to 16, so the demand is just, everybody's grabbing all they can get. So if you want a new PC now, do order it with all the RAM you think you'll need, because you will have trouble getting, and it will cost more than you think. It'll affect a lot of things. I mean, we were expecting people to say, oh yes, memory is cheap, we'll go for a big 16 meg or a 24 meg or a 32 meg system. It's not going to be that easy this year. Next year it should be better.
Okay. And briefly, because we've got a couple of minutes left, you asked me to remind you about Windows NT.
Oh yes, so I did.
So,
well, it's interesting. The one thing that everybody was expecting Windows 95 to be was big, successful and professional. And it's turned out just to be a new version of Windows. Very nice new version of Windows, but if you just want Windows, then perhaps that's what you want. But a lot of people these days want something that's a lot bigger and better. And what I'm seeing is, especially in the banking industry, the pharmaceutical industry, and 1 or 2 other niche corners like that, people installing Windows NT like mad. Partly because it is a 32-bit operating system, partly because it is very much more reliable, partly because it's a network operating system. You're getting people installing NT networks where they used to put Novell in, because they buy one operating system and get the network and the transaction processing together. And partly because it is very much more reliable than any other Windows operating system. They're also installing OS 2 for much the same reason. It's more reliable and professional, but it's nowhere near as easy to install OS 2 as it is to install NT. And it is, if you're going to do a big LAN server thing with OS 2, much more expensive. NT comes with a very cheap network operating system. I think you may find this time next year that predictions for Windows 95 slightly falling short of prediction, and those for Windows NT exceeding predictions. I think Windows NT will sell a lot of copies between now and this time next year.
well, your thoughts very often turn out to be true. I know. Guy Kewney, thanks very much indeed for joining us today.
Thanks, Steve.
And that's the end of this edition, edition 17 of Lantec's Video Interface. We'll be back in October. Don't forget to send back the reply paid card if you want to tell us anything. That's it. Bye for now.